city built on ORDER Tokyo. March 20th, 1995. A Monday morning, like any other 0.7 million people step into the Tokyo metro system every day. A vast, perfectly synchronized machine beneath one of the safest cities on Earth. Down in these tunnels, order is everything. Trains arrive to the second. Lines flow like arteries. No chaos, no randomness. But on this particular morning, something enters the system that does not belong. Something invisible, something lethal, something that will change Japan forever. Within minutes, commuters will collapse on platforms, stations will be sealed, alarms will ring, and the world will ask one question: what really happened in the Tokyo subway sarin attack? To answer that, we must travel back, not to the tunnels, but to the mind of a man who believed he was chosen to end the world. Chapter 1. The unlikely architect of APOCLYPSE's name was Shoko Asahara. Born almost blind, raised in poverty, often isolated, Asahara learned early that the world would not hand him power. So he decided to take IT in the 1980s. He founded a small yoga group at first. It seemed harmless. Breathing exercises, meditation, spiritual enlightenment. But Asahara was not interested in peace. He wanted followers, power, devotion. Soon, the yoga group evolved into a cult with a name, Aum Shinrikyo, Aum Supreme Truth. What made Aum different from other fringe movements wasn't just its leader or its bizarre ideology. It was something far more dangerous. Aum recruited Japan's elite. Doctors, engineers, physicists, programmers, chemists with PhDs. Young people who felt lost in the pressure of Japan's competitive society saw something seductive in Asahara. He promised meaning, purpose, a role in a cosmic battle that only they could fight. By the early 1990s, Aum had tens of thousands of members, millions of dollars in assets, and a complex network of compounds, factories, and laboratories. Aum Shinrikyo had become something Japan had never seen before, a cult with the resources of a small nation. But Asahara wanted more than just influence. He wanted Armageddon. Literally. He predicted that the world would end in a massive global war. And he also claimed he would be the one to restart humanity afterward. To bring about this prophecy, he needed a weapon that could kill silently. A weapon that governments struggled to control. A weapon banned under international law. And so Aum Shinrikyo turned to chemical weapons. Chapter 2. A cult builds a weapon of war. In 1993, Aum secretly built a large chemical plant in a remote mountainous area. To outsiders, it looked like a temple complex. Inside, it was something else entirely. A fully functional sarin production facility. Sarin, a nerve agent developed by Nazi Germany in the late 1930s. Colorless, odorless, absorbed through the skin. A molecule so deadly it can shut down the human nervous system in minutes. It was never meant to exist in civilian hands. Yet Aum Shinrikyo managed to produce it. Their first large-scale test came in 1994 in the city of Matsumoto. Aum members released sarin near an apartment building, targeting judges who were about to rule against the cult in a legal dispute. 7 people died. Hundreds were injured. But incredibly, authorities misdiagnosed the entire event as a pesticide accident. This mistake convinced Asahara that he could strike again, on a much larger scale, and get away with it. And so he planned something bold, something public, something spectacular. He planned to attack the Tokyo subway, the beating heart of Japan. Not to kill the most people possible, although the toll would be devastating, but to destabilize the Japanese state, trigger panic, and position Aum as the only group capable of guiding the survivors into a new era after the chaos. It was the logic of a doomsday prophet. And the world had no idea what was coming. Chapter 3. The plan. The plan was brutal in its simplicity. 5 Aum members would each carry a packet of liquid sarin wrapped in newspapers. Each would board a different train across 3 major subway lines: Chiyoda, Marunouchi, and Hibiya. These lines converged near government districts, the very core of Tokyo. Each operative would carry a sharpened umbrella tip at a predetermined moment. They would drop the packet on the floor and puncture it. Then they would walk away, leave the train, blend into the crowds above ground. The liquid sarin would begin to evaporate inside a crowded train car with high temperature, low ventilation, and the morning rush of commuters. Even a small amount could spread rapidly, a hidden chemical cloud, moving with the trains, drifting between stations. The goal wasn't just death, it was panic, overwhelmed hospitals, confused authorities, news spreading faster than facts, a city collapsing into fear. This was Aum's vision, not just terror, but a trial run for the end of the world. Chapter 4. March 20th, 1995. The attack. BGINASIT began just before 8 a.m. Tokyo was in full motion. Platforms crowded, suitcases rolling. Announcements echoing through tunnels. Everything efficient, everything predictable. Except for 5 men who stepped onto trains carrying poison. Operative 1. The Chiyoda line. He boarded the train at Yoyogi-Uehara at 7:48 a.m. He placed the newspaper-wrapped packet on the floor as the doors closed. He pierced the bag with his umbrella. Drops of sarin spilled onto the ground as he stepped off the train at the next station. The passengers stayed inside, unaware. Within minutes, people began coughing. Some felt dizzy. Others thought it was just a bad smell, though sarin actually has none. Confusion spread, but the train kept going. The poison traveled with it. Operative 2, the Marinucci line at 7:55. Another packet was punctured. Passengers first noticed something unusual when they smelled something strange. Not the sarin itself, but impurities reacting with the AIR.BY. The next station. Commuters were slumped on seats, disoriented. Station staff approached, thinking someone had fainted. But as they lifted the victim, they themselves began to feel sick, still. No one knew what they were dealing with. Operatives 3, 4, and 5. The Hibiya line. All 3 packets were dropped within minutes of each other. One of the trains carried hundreds of passengers. When the packet leaked, the liquid spread across the floor as people stepped on it, unknowingly accelerating the evaporation. At Kamiyacho Station. The train arrived with multiple victims already collapsed. Passengers scrambled out, gasping. Someone pulled the emergency brake. Station workers rushed in, unaware that they were walking directly into a cloud of nerve agent. One of them would later die from exposure while trying to help others. Chapter 5. Chaos below. Confusion. ABOV. The Tokyo Metro is designed for order, not crisis. Within minutes, station after station started reporting medical emergencies. But details were unclear. People collapsed in different places. Some complained they couldn't breathe. Others lost their vision. Many simply sank to the floor, overwhelmed. There was no single explosion, no fire, no sound, just people suddenly dropping. Police initially suspected a gas leak. Firefighters thought it might be an industrial accident. Hospitals received dozens of patients but had no idea what toxin they were dealing with. Tokyo, normally calm, precise, controlled, was being consumed by a silent, invisible enemy, and still, no one knew this was sarin. Chapter 6. Inside the HOSPIDLS, doctors and nurses faced a nightmare with almost no information. Hundreds of patients arrived with symptoms they had never seen in such numbers. Many hospitals ran out of beds. Hallways filled. Doctors improvised treatments based on guesswork. Some physicians recognized the possibility of a nerve agent, recalling obscure medical training from years earlier. They administered atropine, a drug used against nerve agents. For many, it worked. For others, help came too late. By 10 a.m., the scale of the attack became undeniable. The Japanese government declared an emergency. The media broke into live broadcasts. The city held its breath. And then the question turned from what was happening to who did it. Chapter 7. The investigation. Points 2 AUM. Within hours, Attention turned to Aum Shinrikyo. They were already under suspicion for previous incidents. Police had been preparing to raid their compounds for weeks. The Sarin attack happened just one day before those raids were scheduled. The timing was not a coincidence. Asahara believed that the police operation would destroy his cult, so he attacked first, hoping to disrupt the raids, sow confusion, and spark the societal collapse he had been predicting. Instead, the attack only strengthened the resolve of the authorities. When police finally entered Aum facilities, what they found shocked the world: that a chemical weapons laboratory, capable of producing sarin on an industrial scale, stockpiles of chemicals, weapons, explosives, engineering schematics, a prison system for disobedient members, blueprints for future attacks, and detailed instructions for the subway operation. The cult wasn't just responsible, it was organized, methodical, scientific. A doomsday machine disguised as a religion. Chapter 8. The arrest of Shoko Asahara went into hiding within his own compound, sealed inside a hidden chamber behind a wall. It took police weeks to find him. When they discovered the concealed space, Asahara was sitting inside, silent, unresponsive, eyes unfocused. As if he had already left the world behind, he was arrested, charged, tried, and eventually sentenced to death by hanging. Many cult executives also received death sentences. Others faced life imprisonment. Yet the question lingered: why did so many highly educated people follow him? And why did they help build a weapon meant to end society? Chapter 9. The aftermath and the unseen. 12 people lost their lives that morning. More than 5,000 were injured. The numbers were staggering, but the attack could have been far worse. Experts later revealed that the sarin Aum used was low in purity. Had it been produced correctly, tens of thousands could have died. Tokyo's subway system underwent massive upgrades. Emergency protocols were rewritten. Chemical detection systems were installed. Japan began reevaluating its vulnerability to non-state threats. But the most powerful legacy belongs to the ordinary people who acted without knowing the danger. Station workers who tried to clean spilled liquid with mops and towels, commuters who carried strangers up the stairs, doctors and nurses who treated victims before knowing the cause, train drivers who continued their routes, not understanding why passengers were collapsing, trying desperately to get them to stations for help. Many of them became victims themselves. These unrecognized heroes prevented the attack from becoming far worse, not through training or equipment, but through instinct, compassion, and courage. Chapter 10. What really happened? When you strip away the chaos, the horror, the confusion, the mythology, the Tokyo subway sarin attack was not just a random act of terror. It was a calculated strike by a doomsday cult that had political ambition as scientific resources, a charismatic authoritarian leader, a belief in an impending apocalypse, a willingness to use weapons of mass destruction. Unlike many terrorist acts, this one was not rooted in geopolitical conflict. It emerged from ideology and invented, self-reinforcing delusional worldview. Aum Shinrikyo believed that by attacking the Tokyo subway, they were simply triggering the future they had been told was inevitable. In their minds, they weren't destroying society. They were fulfilling prophecy. Chapter 11. The lessons the world must remember. The Tokyo sarin attack was the first major use of a chemical weapon by a non-state group in a civilian area. It proved something chilling. You don't need an army to create mass terror. You don't need missiles or warheads. You don't even need international support. You only need a leader unchecked. A belief unchallenged, followers unthinking, and a weapon invisible to the eye. Governments around the world studied the attack in detail. Security systems changed. Emergency response training evolved. Chemical detection technologies improved. But the deeper lesson cannot be measured in policies. It is the realization that danger can grow in silence, in isolation, in groups that appear fringe until suddenly they are not. Aum Shinrikyo was not taken seriously. until it was too late. By the time the world recognized the threat, Sarin was already leaking into the tunnels of Tokyo. Closing. The tunnels are today. Millions of commuters ride the Tokyo Metro without a second thought. Trains glide through the same stations where chaos once unfolded, lives ended. Heroes emerged. A nation changed forever. There is no plaque on the platforms, no monument inside the tunnels, no physical reminder of the morning when invisible poison drifted across polished floors. But the memory remains, carried by survivors, by families, by a city that prides itself on order yet learned how quickly order can fall apart. The Tokyo subway Sarin attack was not just an act of terror. It was a message written in vapor. That safety is never guaranteed, that threats can hide behind ordinary faces, and that even the strongest societies must remain vigilant, because the darkest dangers are the ones no one sees coming. And that is what really happened.